After making a Western Conference Finals appearance last year and finally getting some deep playoff experience, the Minnesota Timberwolves were expected to be a really good team this year, and they were expected to be among the top teams in the Western Conference, if not the absolute best team in the Western Conference. And they were supposed to really compete for an NBA title and make a deep playoff run. But as of right now, halfway through the season, they sit at 22-21 and ninth place in the Western Conference. And right now, they would play the Kings in a play-in game. And right now, the trade that they made to acquire Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo has looked absolutely awful because Karl Anthony Towns, the player that they traded away and was a huge part of last season's success and Western Conference final run, has been playing incredible basketball in New York. And the two players that they got in exchange for him in Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo have been all right, but not as good as what they had hoped that those two players would be. And Karl Anthony Towns is playing the best basketball of his career. And it's not as if he played poorly last year, because Cat had one of the best seasons of his career, and he was a major reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves played as well as they did into the Western Conference Finals last year. And with Karl Anthony Towns being as good as he was and Anthony Edwards coming into his own, this team was supposed to be a really good contender. And when Rudy Gobert is allowed to only play defense and he isn't expected to make a huge impact on offense, with Karl Anthony Towns playing as well as he was, this front court was one of the best in the entire league. But when you put Julius Randle at power forward alongside a guy like Rudy Gobert, this team will not be as effective because it limits the spacing even more, because Julius Randle is best in the mid-range and inside and in the post. And when Rudy Gobert is also crowding the paint, needing touches, this team is less spaced than it was last season. And the reason why this team was so good offensively and so efficient offensively was that Karl Anthony Towns could provide spacing that Rudy Gobert could not. So you could have them out on the court at the same time due to this spacing and due to the advantage that it had. But now, with Julius Randle, he's only shooting 33% from the three-point line on 4 attempts a game, and just hasn't been the three-point shooter that he used to be in New York. And this has been an incredibly lopsided trade, and Karl Anthony Towns has been the best player out of that trade, and Minnesota is sitting in a really weird position with a team that is supposed to contend and they invested a lot into, but just isn't putting up results and is sitting right around 500 halfway through the season. They're 13 and a half games back of the number 1 seed, and in their last 10 games, they're 5-5 and have lost back-to-back games. And yes, regular season doesn't really matter when it comes to the playoffs, but Minnesota has showed a lot of flaws throughout this season, and while they're a solid defensive team, offensively, they just have not showed the potential that they were supposed to have earlier on in the season. And even when this trade was made between New York and Minnesota, a lot of people didn't really understand why Minnesota would make the trade, especially after making the Western Conference Finals and only looking to get better this season. And with Dallas not playing well either, if they had retained Karl Anthony Towns and ran it back with the same lineup as last season, they had a really good shot of being really massive contenders in the Western Conference. And I do believe that if they kept Karl Anthony Towns, they would be close to where Oklahoma City is and be contending with them for the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. And this trade has really held them back, and there's a lot of issues with this team. Let me know in the comment section below if you think that this team has a chance in the Western Conference, or if they need to make another major move before the trade deadline to actually have a chance within the Western Conference. God bless you all. Have an amazing day, and make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can have all the content I'm putting out. God bless you all.